Hey travelers, welcome back to my channel. Last video we visited the CN Tower, the Rogers Center, and the aquarium. This week we're going to jump across the street and visit Toronto's oldest railway roundhouses. Let's get into it. Welcome to Roundhouse Park. The 17-acre park in downtown Toronto is the former railway lands. It features John Street Roundhouse, a preserved locomotive roundhouse which is home to the Toronto Railway Museum, Steam Whistle Brewing, and the restaurant and entertainment complex, the Rec Room. The park is also home to a collection of trains, the former Canadian Pacific Railway Dawn Station, and the Roundhouse Park Miniature Railway. John Street Roundhouse was built in 1929 by the Canadian Pacific Railway. It was built to house and repair its large fleet of passenger locomotives traveling through Union Station. The Roundhouse was a very active industrial building. It was in use 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until the end of the 1950s. This was when diesel locomotives fully replaced steam locomotives. Some 200 years ago, the land around the Roundhouse didn't exist, but the need for railways to access downtown Toronto prompted civil engineers to fill in the shoreline and create artificial land. They used landfill that was dredged up from the bottom of Lake Ontario. In 1990, John Street Roundhouse was declared a National Historic Site. It was described as, quote, architecturally and historically important surviving reminder of steam technology, and a role in rail transportation in the city of Toronto, end quote. In front of the Roundhouse is a turntable. Not that kind of turntable. Gosh, this turntable is used to spin steam locomotives around to get them out of the workshop and onto the tracks. This turntable is officially the longest turntable in Canada. It is over 36.5 meters or 120 feet long. Today, the Toronto Railway Museum uses the turntable to move their locomotives and rolling stock out. The Toronto Railway Museum opened on May 28, 2010 and operates year-round. The museum is a charitable organization that operates throughout the John Street Roundhouse and throughout Roundhouse Park. Their mission is to tell the story of Toronto's railways and how they have shaped and continue to shape the city, province, and country. In fact, Toronto's railways have had an impact on transit across North America. The museum operates 3 stalls of the John Street Roundhouse and features an indoor display, an indoor restoration facility, a full-size diesel cab simulator, an outdoor miniature railway, as well as a fully restored railway village, which includes Dawn Station, Signal Cabin D with tool shed, a watchman shanty, a water tower, and a coaling tower. Let's take a look around at some of the outdoor displays. Number 7020 is a diesel-electric switcher. It was built by the American Locomotive Company in partnership with General Electric in the US in 1944. The 7020 was the first diesel-electric locomotive used extensively in the Toronto area, and it was retired in 1985. The Porter locomotive is the ultimate green machine. Instead of using fossil fuels, it used compressed air for power making. It was useful for specific industries, such as rope making. The Porter locomotive retired in 1956. Here's the Canadian National Railway steam locomotive 6213. This is a U2 Class 484 Northern Type steam locomotive, which was built in 1942 by the Montreal Locomotive Works for both passenger and freight trains. If you visited or even live in Toronto, chances are you will have seen, heard of, or even ridden the GO train. Go Cab Car number 104 is an example of the first generation of GO train equipment. It entered service in 1967 when GO Transit began service. It was designed and built in Canada and was state-of-the-art with comfortable seating and air conditioning, which was a rarity in commuter trains at that time. Here is the Canadian National Railway GP7 diesel locomotive numbered 4803. It was built by General Motors in 1953. The GP7s are examples of the technological shift from steam locomotion to diesel that was completed in the 1950s. Here are the Toronto, Hamilton, and Buffalo Railway cabooses, number 70, which was built in Berwick, Pennsylvania in 1913. The cabooses, owned by the Canadian Pacific Railway, linked Toronto with the American Railways at Buffalo, and served the steel mills up until the 1990s. Cabooses, like number 70, could be found on the back of every freight train and served a significant purpose. Cabooses were where the train crews slept and worked on their long journeys, functioning almost like a rolling home office. The Cape Car is a luxurious solarium passenger car. It was built in 1929 for the Canadian Pacific Railway as a lounge car for the Trans-Canada Limited series of trains that ran from Montreal to Toronto and over to Vancouver. Cape Race was named after a cape in southeast Newfoundland and Labrador that is famous for receiving the distress signal of the sinking Titanic and relaying the message to the rest of the world. Heading over to the east end of Roundhouse Park is the two-story building labeled Cabin D and an adjoining tool shed. Cabin D was an interlocking switching tower built in 1894 by the Grand Trunk Railway. It's called Cabin D because there were once several lettered and also named switching stations located along the track stemming from Union Station. These switching stations were phased out by more advanced technologies. The Dawn Station was built in 1896 by the Canadian Pacific Railway. It is an original train station that was stationed on the east bank of the Dawn River. In 1969, it was moved to Todmorden Mills. For many years while it was there, the station was boarded up and not open to the public. Upon its relocation to the Roundhouse Park, it was repainted and repaired and opened to the public as a gift shop. The station also operates for the Roundhouse Park Miniature Railway. The Toronto Railway Historical Association was established in 2001 and is now incorporated as a federally registered charity. Its primary focus is the development of the Toronto Railway Museum. The museum volunteer staff work throughout the year. They continue to work and welcome donations. To donate, or if you're interested in volunteering, please check down below. Steam Whistle is an independent brewery in Toronto. It was founded in 2000 by 3 former employees of the Upper Canada Brewing Company, after the company was bought out. The company produces a Pilsner lager and launched a pale ale in 2019. You can take a tour of Steam Whistle. It's a half-hour tour which moves on catwalks high above the brewing's bustling operations, where you'll take in the aromatic smells and sounds of the brew house. Learn about Steam Whistle Brewing's founding story and take a dive into the history of the iconic John Street Roundhouse. The Rec Room is a Canadian chain of entertainment restaurants owned by Cineplex Entertainment. First opened in Edmonton in 2006, its locations feature entertainment and recreational attractions such as arcades, driving simulators, recreational games, and virtual reality, as well as a restaurant and bar. Rec Room Roundhouse Park opened in June 2017. Thanks again for watching, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. See you next time!